this morning, we're turning the spotlight on a horrifying discovery in Michigan. Officers finding 3 siblings living alone in deplorable conditions. And now their mother's waking up behind bars. This is what it looked like inside. And my friends, we even had to blur some of these images because it's just too disgusting. This home was filled with garbage and human waste, and the 2 girls and 1 boy, ages 15, 13, and 12, had been living like this for years. Neighbors are stunned.
Everybody's upset about it, like, oh my God, this is right in our neighborhood. How could something like this happen?
My goodness. Now, this 34-year-old mother was living someplace else, apparently, and somebody would drop off prepared meals for the teenagers. Lately, it was just a loaf of bread. Officers were called when the landlord said that he hadn't heard from his tenant since December, and she hadn't paid her rent since October. You know, how could nobody know this was happening in this house? Let's talk about that. I want to bring in our guests. I want to welcome in the studio with me retired supervisor with the Department of Homeland Security. He's also a firearms expert and an author as well, Dr. Jason Piccolo. And of course, attorney Casey Early is standing by with us remotely to dig into this case. Dr. Jason, you've come upon many scenes in your career. How do you think nobody knew about this?
You know, the thing is, they were sheltered. They were in place, and they were so scared to leave. Listen, when you live in your neighborhood, do you really look around at your neighbors? Do you see them that much? You know, my last neighborhood I lived in, I hardly ever saw my neighbor. So who's going to report it? And if they did see something, who do they report it to? So yes, they were sheltered and too scared to leave. So it's just a horrible situation, absolutely horrible.
It really is. Casey, you know, we talk all the time, not only are you such an outstanding lawyer, you're an outstanding mom too. And a lot of times, you know, your experience as a mother will inform things you think about in the courtroom and themes and trials. What do you think about this when you hear about the mom waking up behind bars and nobody knew what was happening in her home?
As she should, Julie, my heart breaks. I'll be quite honest, because I'm taking it from a perspective as a mother. Being a mother of 4 children, when I read this story, I could not understand how is it that you can abandon your children. I've heard of the 3 to 4 day drug binges, but 3 to 4 years. I would say the system did fail the children, and here's why. I know that they were abandoned around COVID. So even if they were online schooling, is there not a system in place to see that these children have not been in school? And then thank goodness she stopped paying her rent, because who knows how long this could have gone. I really thank goodness for the landlord as well, because he is the one that called for the welfare check. But the weekly drop off of food, the house was filthy as expected because they were children. The human waste, the mold, the garbage was reported to be as high as 4 feet. My heart breaks for these children. And this is why, side note, that we have to pray even when we don't know who the victims are. And not only does she need severe punishment, but obviously she needs counseling. And I'll say this last thing, the family. The children are now with relatives. So you mean to tell me the same relative that these children are with did not check on these children between the 3 to 4 years that there was weekly drop-offs? And whoever dropped off that food, they too should be punished, because I'm pretty sure that there were smells and they saw and witnessed what these children were experiencing. So I'm just heartbroken by this, and I pray that our children are saved.
Oh, I love everything you said, Casey. Thank you for all of that. And yeah, thinking about the last point you just made about how people who, the DoorDash delivery person, whoever it is dropping off something, you know, you might think, oh gosh, do I see something that looks, you know, I think we're in a day and age where everybody just wants to head down, mind their business, you know, where we need, do we not, Jason Piccolo, more people making a complaint. That's how oftentimes officers get the complaints about all the animals that have overrun a house, right? Somebody sees something when a neighbor opens a door. In fact, I got a clip from the sheriff. Let's take a look at his reaction.
It kind of reminds me of the commercials you see where animals are living in very deplorable conditions. Well, kind of take that times 10. And that's what the kids were living in for years.
Yeah, Jason, you know, if law enforcement doesn't have people willing to speak up and say something doesn't seem right, how can anything get done?
We need a robust PR campaign for the police. And even if it's not just the police, the social work, the people will need to know that they can step up, they can see something, say something, and then report it and not be in fear themselves. You know, a lot of times people are afraid to go to the police with anything they have going on, so they don't want to rely on them. So have anonymous reporting, have some sort of system in place so they can do their investigation.
Right, right. This was just, it's hard to, it's unspeakable, yet it happened. Yeah, this was going on. I mean, look at this. I mean, the girls were sleeping on pizza boxes. The boy slept on a mattress. The boy told deputies mom abandoned them in 2020 or 2021. They weren't going to school. That was a question I had. Casey, apparently they found no one had gone to school. So for years, they're not going to school. The girls hadn't been outside in years. The boy went outside twice just to feel the grass, check the mail. I mean, you know, and it's like them needing a parent too to guide them. As I was seeing these things, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you realize just how dependent children are on mom and dad.
Indeed, Julie. I mean, we are nurturers. We guide, advise, love, care for our children, and they didn't have it. So they didn't know the difference between right and wrong. They didn't know that they had to clean up because they didn't have that guidance. They didn't have that love. And I know they're going to need counseling for trauma. They're going to need, just that education. I mean, they pass time by playing games and just sleeping. This is not how children are supposed to live. Their innocence was stripped from them, and their mother and father, absentee father, is to blame for the situation.
So true. A great analysis from you both. Oh, this is one we are going to watch this case. Everybody's talking about it. We're going to watch when mom goes to court and see what happens.